If you're struggling to finish writing your first pilot script, or if you struggle to finish scripts in general, then this video is for you. Hey, I'm Charla. I'm a TV writer and coach who helps creatives and solopreneurs overcome perfectionism and procrastination so that they can find a way to work that works for them. I'm going to be breaking down the 5-step process that I use to complete any script that I'm writing, and I promise that if you use these steps, you will finish your script. And even though I'm specifically talking about completing a pilot script, you really can use these steps to finish any creative project. Now, I just want to give a disclaimer that if you are writing your very first pilot script, this will likely take you longer than 6 weeks to complete. Things are the hardest when we're doing them for the first time, and writing a script is no exception. It's only repetition that makes writing your script easier and faster. So if you are writing a script for the first time, it's very important to be patient and compassionate with yourself because everything you're doing is new. You're taking in all this information on structure and you're trying to organize your ideas into something that is understandable and entertaining to somebody for the first time, and that is no easy feat. So being hard on yourself really will not be conducive to this process. It's only being patient and compassionate with yourself and allowing yourself to make mistakes that will make this process work. But if you're able to get through this the first time, it only gets easier and faster. Another disclaimer is that this video is best for people who have already taken a script writing class and have some understanding of the script writing process, because I'm not going to be going in detail about the script writing process, only the project management side of getting a script done. Now, I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you, but don't worry, I've created a free guide to go along with this video. The link is down in the description, and you can download your free guide and follow along as we go through the 5 steps. And keep in mind that some steps may be more helpful to you than others, but I came up with these steps based on what I've seen tends to keep creatives stuck when they're trying to finish a project, and when done all together, they can serve as a solid roadmap for finishing anything. So let's jump in with step 1, and that is to have a solid why. Taking the time to think about a strong reason why you want to finish your project may seem like an afterthought, but in my opinion, it's what makes the difference between the people who finish and the people who don't. For example, if someone is very nonchalant about finishing their project, like they could finish it or they could not, it's no biggie either way, versus the person who must finish this project because they know that if they do, it will change their lives. Who do you think is more likely to finish the project? I'll wait.
10 years later.
As human beings, we are motivated by meaning. And having a strong reason why you want to finish your pilot is a way to make it a meaningful task instead of something that you're just crossing off of your to-do list. When it comes to figuring out your why, I like to ask creatives I work with 2 questions. The first one is, what do you want this project to do for you? For me, my why was that I really wanted to leave my day job that I hated, and I wanted to be creative for a living. I wanted this project to help me break into a new career. So what do you want this script or this project to do for you? Do you want it to take you to the next level of your creative potential? Or is it going to help you prove to yourself that you can finish things? Whatever the reason, it should be something that is meaningful to you. The second question is, what do you want to do with this project? I can't tell you how many people start projects with no real idea in mind of what they want to do with it when they're done with it, which makes it incredibly difficult to give the project any kind of real momentum. Do you want to use the project as a sample to get an agent or manager? Or do you want to submit it to film festivals and script competitions to build up your resume and see how your work stacks up against other creatives? Either way, these 2 questions, what do I want this project to do for me, and what do I want to do with this project, will give you a clear sense of why you are doing this project. It'll give you a sense of meaning, and it'll give you the drive and momentum to finish. By the way, if you have a script already and you're wondering what your next steps are and how to break into the industry, my How to Get Repped and Break into TV Writing mini course walks you through what managers are looking for, how to attract the right managers for you, and it gives you a crash course introduction to the business of Hollywood. The link is down in the description. Step 2 is to start with the end in mind. A lot of people think that all they really need to finish their project is to just sit down, start writing, and with enough grit and determination and sheer desire, they will get this project done lickety-split. But without a hard deadline, a clear idea of where your script is going and when it needs to get there, the project will likely float around forever and you'll feel like you have no momentum to finish it because there's no gravitational pull of a hard deadline that you're working towards. If you've ever struggled with keeping up momentum to finish a project, it's probably because you had no real end point or destination in mind for the project. Without having a deadline written down on the calendar, or even better, an actual person or place to send your script, like a competition, a film festival, or writing class or writing group, it lowers the likelihood that this project will ever get done. Now, that doesn't mean that there are people who can't finish their script without an endpoint, but those people are really the exception and not the rule. Most of us creatives are a bit neurospicy and we get easily distracted, and we need that push and that urgency to get the work done. Every time you finish a project, you'll have a better sense of what that project needed to be completed, and it helped give you an understanding of what things need to simmer versus what things are ready to be cooked. Step 3 is to get into flow. Unburdening the mind is really the key to flow. Giving your brain less to do, less to process, allows for new ideas and gives you the mental energy to develop those ideas. You can't expect to get your script done when you've got 75 things on the to-do list and you've got this incredibly rushed energy and no real space in your life to make this script happen. So how do you unburden the mind? I think there are really 3 key ways to unburden the mind. And the first one is with physical release, with things like exercise or maybe with rest. Being physically stagnant, being in one place for a long time, not getting much movement or nature, or maybe you are overworked and your body is too physically exhausted and you need rest. Whichever extreme you're on, taking care of your physical body is one of the most important ways to create mental space for your creativity. You really can't expect to finish your projects and give your full focus if you're not taking care of your body physically. So that is the first step to unburdening the mind and getting in flow, is really taking stock of where you are in terms of your physical exercise or your energy levels or your exhaustion levels, and addressing those issues, either getting more movement into your life or getting more rest into your life if you're overworked and overstimulated. The next way to get in flow and unburden the mind is with emotional release. Now, I can't tell you how many people I've worked with where they've come in and been like, Charlotte, I'm really struggling to finish my work. And we do a couple of sessions. And then I learned that this person is either grieving a loss or they're dealing with some very difficult emotional thing in their lives. And because we're so conditioned to just work all the time, we put these incredible expectations on ourselves that we're going to be able to be clear and calm and creative and productive when we're going through something emotionally draining in our lives, especially things that need our actual attention and focus. So I say that it's really hard to get in flow. It's really hard to create space for creativity and unburden the mind when we're not addressing the emotional needs that we have and the emotional release that is required so that we can unburden our mind. So first is physical release and second is emotional release when it comes to getting in flow. The third thing is decluttering. Now, when I'm talking about decluttering, I'm talking about decluttering your physical space, like your desk or your room, or even your house if your house is super cluttered. Whenever we see clutter around everywhere, it literally burdens our mind because our mind is checking off things that we have to do. So the less clutter that is around, the less our minds have to process, the less our minds have to do, and the more space you create in your mind and the more flow you create for yourself, for your creativity. But I'm also talking about digital decluttering. There are so many things that are taking our attention digitally, and it's unreasonable of us to ask ourselves to have the creative space and the creative energy when we're spending hours taking in so much content. So So taking the time to audit and see how much time you're spending on things like YouTube and Instagram and all of the digital spaces that we're a part of, and giving yourself a little bit of a break from them, whether you are unsubscribing from certain things or just starting to check the amount of time you're spending on these things. Because the more that you get offline, the more space you create in your mind for creativity. And you should also be decluttering your to-do list and your commitments. If you are overcommitted, it might be a way that you're procrastinating from taking care of your own goals and doing your own thing. Decluttering the commitments in your life can create time and space and energy so that you can recommit to your creative goals. Essentially, getting in flow and unburdening the mind requires that you become a loving parent to yourself. It requires that you care enough about your future, your goals, and your own happiness and fulfillment to make the hard choices that are in your best interest. Now that you have a solid reason why you're writing this pilot, you have a hard deadline that you're working towards, and you've created space for creativity by decluttering your life, you're ready for steps 4 and 5, which are breaking the project down into sections and scheduling it out on your calendar. So I think sitting down and just starting to write your script with no real roadmap or breaking down the project in any way is like trying to build a house without a blueprint. It can really leave you feeling lost and stuck in the middle of the process. So this is an ideal 6-week breakdown of how to go through writing your script. So week 1 is blue sky. And this week is just about thinking big picture about your idea. It's about thinking about the characters and the location and writing ideas for scenes and for dialogue that come to you. It's really just giving yourself the opportunity to think broadly, to think openly about what this project could be, what the ideas you already have are, so that you can have something to start working from when you actually start writing. In week 2, you write a beat sheet, where you literally just write down what happens in the story in chronological order. Week 3 is outline. Week 4 is the first half of the script, week 5 is the second half, and week 6 is the rewrite. So step 5 is to schedule this out on your calendar. And what I mean is to literally schedule out week 1 of the blue skying, week 2 of the beat sheet, week 3 of the outline, 4 and 5 of the writing, and 6 of the rewrite on a calendar so that you have a clear plan of when you're getting this project done. The idea is that you use step 2 of having an endpoint as an anchor on your calendar so that you can work backwards from where that deadline is and schedule out your script writing so that you give yourself 6 weeks until that deadline or more based off of whatever you'd like to do so that you are finished with your script by the time that deadline hits. When you're scheduling out your script, I think it's really important to make sure that the schedule is really balanced. I see a lot of people trying to do only writing and only focus on writing during that time, but I actually think that that can be very exhausting and demotivating. I think it's much better to include in your calendar chunks of writing time of maybe 1 to 4 hours, and then other things that you're doing in your life as well, like socializing, like resting, like exercising, and things like that. Having balance, being deliberate, having a plan, and creating space are what will help you finish your pilot. And again, this schedule that I've given you and these steps that I've given you are just a guide. You can and should create a way to work that works for you and your life and your circumstances. But just the simple fact that you have a plan and an endpoint for your project makes it 100 times more likely that you're actually going to finish it. And when in doubt, do the bare minimum. Consistently contributing towards your goal, no matter how small, is the way to reach it. So now that we've gotten through the 5 steps, you'll notice that having an accountability partner is not one of the steps. And that's because from my experience, even when people do have an accountability partner, if these other 5 steps are not met, then they still likely won't get the project done. Many times it's combining an accountability partner with these 5 steps that actually helps you get across the finish line. Well, I really hope that this was helpful to you. Please let me know if it was in the comments. And of course, if you did find it helpful and if you did like it, please like and subscribe. That's all I've got for you today. Until next time, get out there, get to work.